I want to thank everyone for being here again today. This is the first public safety briefing of the new fiscal year because the fiscal year starts July 1st, and as you know, we adopted our budget last month. I want to thank Monroe County Public Safety Director Rich Tantillo, who is here for us from Monroe County. You'll hear from him in a second. Councilmember Miguel Melendez may be joining us. I think Rich being here is a powerful statement of Monroe County's commitment to making our streets safer as well. The spirit of collaboration between Rochester and Monroe County extends through the ranks of both our organizations, and as many of you know, much of the public safety initiatives that we are working on are a collaborative effort between the county. I want to thank again our Rochester City Council members for their work in passing our budget that helps us to create a safe, equitable, and prosperous Rochester by inspiring hope and delivering an opportunity. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about today and the things that we have been doing were contained in this budget. Also joined by Fire Chief Teresa Everett, Commissioner of the Department of Recreation and Human Services, Dr. Shirley Green, my advisor on violence prevention programs and leader of the Mayor's Office of Violence Prevention Services, Victor Saunders, Corporation Counsel, Linda Kingsley. We mentioned Rich Tantillo, and then our police chief, David Smith, who you will hear from in a moment. So far this year, I want to highlight where we are with shootings. As you know, last year, around this time, actually it's almost a year, I think it'll be a year at the end of July 20th, around that time, where I declared a gun violence state of emergency. I declared that gun violence state of emergency because the number of shootings were out of control. And since that time, as the chief will report in a moment, shootings and homicides are down by double digits. Again, I want to stress that we're not here to celebrate or jump up and down. One shooting is too many. And as you know, on the 4th of July, we had a spate of shootings that took place. But shootings and homicides are down. And, you know, that is something that we are extremely happy about. It's why I'm going to extend the gun violence emergency again in a couple of days, as a matter of fact. I think it expires in a couple of days, and I will be extending that emergency for another 30 days. And why am I doing that? Because it's working. It's working because the numbers have bared out, particularly around shootings, that we have seen a decrease. Around this time last year, when we stood here, as of this week, as of the 10th, and I think, Chief, these numbers are right in terms of the shootings in particular, because this was strictly related to the gun violence emergency. Last year around this time, I believe we had 163 shootings. We're down to 116. That's a decrease of 27.61%. The number of individuals shot last time we were around this standing here last year was almost 200, but we're down to 135. That's down 28.19%. And individuals killed by gun violence, and that's individuals by gun violence, that means shot with a gun, are down 45.16%. Now, earlier in this year, we had a couple of homicides that were related to family members. If you remember, a couple of stabbings, there was a car accident. That added to the homicide numbers. But as it relates specifically to the gun violence emergency, which targeted guns, illegal guns, we've made progress there. Let's put that in the bucket. Now, our main challenge, and our challenge that we continue to have, are these car thefts. Major challenge. This is a challenge across the country. I've been talking to mayors from across the country all weekend, and this is having an impact across the country. For the first time in America since 2008, America saw almost 1 million cars stolen last year. So this trend has been maddening, and it's a problem. The other thing that is a problem, and we've highlighted this time and time again, is the amount of young people that are involved in these car thefts. Too many. And this is becoming a life or death situation. What do I mean by that? When you have individuals that has their cars stolen and they can't make it to a dialysis appointment because their car is not there, that's a problem. There are many people in our community that have diabetes or have kidney issues, and they have to get to a medical appointment and rely on transportation. When a parent can't get to work or on time to pick up their child because their car was stolen, that is a problem. But even more dangerous, this past weekend, when you have little kids who did not take the 5-hour course, first off, we have adults with licenses that have problems driving. So imagine 12, 13, 14-year-olds driving. It increases the danger even more. And I know people personally that have been hit by individuals who are not old enough to operate a motor vehicle, that have hit people, run stop signs, crashed into people's houses, hit other cars, and this is a county-wide issue, which I'm sure Rich will touch on in a moment. So that is an issue that we have to continue to work to get under control. We've seen a trend in stolen cars decline, but not high enough. We know how we got here, but just a reminder, because I know there are short memories. Hyundai and Kia continue to be the vast majority of the cars that are being stolen. The reason why these cars are being stolen is because, I like to remind people, there is these cars between 2011 and usually 2021 did not have the basic immobilizer, which is basically like having 4 legs on a chair. Most cars these days, they have what we call immobilizers. You wouldn't sit on a chair and sit on a chair with 3 legs. But Kia and Hyundai decided in their infinite wisdom to manufacture cars between 2011 and 2021 that did not have immobilizers on them. These cars from Kia and Hyundai are cheaper cars. They're cars that are very price conscious, so most folks in our community drive these cars. But they are very easily stolen. They're very easily taken. And as a result, we've seen kids, mainly teens and preteens, take these cars and crash them, which is why we are suing Hyundai and Kia, because we believe that they bear some of the responsibility. And we'll circle back in terms of some of the things we think the community can do to help us to minimize these thefts that we are seeing. So that is a challenge that we are still facing. Gun violence is still something that we are not going to let our foot off the gas on. It's important that we still focus on that. Now, one of the things that we also that I also want to hit on is the summer programs and opportunities that we have. I had a young person ask me the other day. They said, "Mayor, you know, you spend so much time talking about some of the problem kids. What about the kids that are doing the right thing?" So let me just be clear. The vast majority of the citizens, the vast majority of our young people that we have in the city of Rochester are doing the right thing. They are engaged in our summer programs. They are over at the Pamela Jackson Art Center right now. They're over at Cobb's Hill. They're over at Flint Street. They are working in our Summer of Opportunity program. They are in our, they are taking advantage of the programs offered by the Peace Collective. They are taking advantage of the programs that are offered by our library. There are tons of programs that are happening, and the vast majority of our young people are involved in them. So it is important for us to make sure that we talk about the young people who aren't on TikTok stealing cars, because the vast majority of them are not. But there is a small portion that are involved, that are wreaking havoc in our community, and we have to make sure that they stop and do that. Again, as it relates to the violence numbers, gratified, not satisfied. It's a tool that we will continue to do. You will see me continue to renew this state of emergency as long as necessary. We know that it works because the numbers are showing that it works, and we will make sure that we continue to do that. I want to also let you know that Linda Kingsley will talk about some of the legal tactics that we are using as it relates to our state of emergency. This has helped us in our suppression strategy, but this has also helped us with our prevention strategies. I'm happy to report that the summer youth and family programming that is underway is making a difference. These expanded hours, which have never taken place before in Rochester, are, we believe, will be very successful. The addition of mental health counselors in our centers. And again, the biggest prevention strategy is youth employment and youth engagement. I have a 12-year-old. I also have an 8-year-old. By the time they get home, they are so tired, they don't have time to get in trouble. And we need to make sure, parents, get your kids involved in as many activities as possible. Take them to the Boys and Girls Club. Drop them off at the Art Center. These activities keep them out of trouble, period. It's one of the best violence reduction tools we have, is our young people being engaged. The Summer of Opportunity program is up and running. Our new paid summer enrichment program for younger kids that are between the ages of, 12 and 14? 12 and 13-year-olds, the summer enrichment program is up and going strong. These are 12 and 13-year-olds. If they are involved in our summer enrichment program, learning about how a job works, they are not out trying to take a Kia or Hyundai. And another thing I'm happy to report is that our decision to increase pay for lifeguards has paid off in spades. We were able to open most of our city pools and Durand Beach this summer because of that decision to increase pay. And a lot of the people taking advantage of that are young people. And at this point, we will continue to monitor that, and we're happy to be on the upper echelon of pay as it relates to the lifeguards. And lifeguards are definitely going to be needed because it's going to be hot the next couple of days. I'm sure we'll be in a cool sweep in the next couple of days. I think it's supposed to be 90 tomorrow, so get ready for that. And this Thursday night, we're going to kick off our highly successful Our Night Out series at the Rochester Community Sports Complex. That will be taking place, again, a way to keep our young people engaged and focused on positive activities. But I also want to point out the Department of Environmental Services under Commissioner Rich Perrin and the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development, headed by Commissioner Dana Miller, are also playing an important role in crime prevention. We are looking at various streets that we need to put temporary speed bumps on, that we need to put different design structures in order to facilitate positive behavior. You can do that through design, and our DAS crew has looked at that. Through my emergency order, I've added speed humps to alter traffic patterns in some of the most dangerous street segments, and we will continue to do that. The emergency order gives me the ability to do that, and their teams are playing a big role in building neighborhood pride. The operations team has had several mini-suites planned for the summer, and our forestry crews continue to add more street trees to close the tree disparity of urban forests. All of this is related to our public safety efforts. And then I also want to remind people of our National Night Out. It's the first Tuesday, August 1st this year, and our local neighborhood leaders are supported by the Neighborhood and Business Development team for this. Code inspectors, the number that we've added, which are also in this budget, we added it last year's budget, this year's budget, they are also out inspecting to make sure that we are keeping our lots clean and litter-free. And on our intervention front, our Office of Violence Prevention Services is making great progress, as is the Persons in Crisis team. And Pathways to Peace has had several planned outreach events for the summer. The media has gotten information on those, including a basketball tournament this Saturday. That's happening this Saturday. And also the Peace Barbecues and a book bag giveaway. And Victor's office has launched a marketing campaign, which you're going to hear about in a little bit, and it's all about positivity and making sure that we continue to see a decrease in the gun violence numbers. The Person in Crisis teams in Dr. Green's department is now fully staffed, and we can already see the results. We know that in the first 6 months, we've seen a decrease in the number of calls that they've responded to, and we also, because of that number, are able to make sure that we deploy them to deal with some of the most challenging individuals in our community as it relates to mental health. I want to also just talk about, again, turn it over to the county. They are supporting us in supporting the entire county in our public safety efforts. So I want to invite Director Tantillo to talk about some of the efforts that the county has taken as it relates particularly to public safety, and particularly as it relates to this countywide, nationwide issue as it relates to stolen cars. And he's here on behalf of the county executive who couldn't be here. Director Tantillo.
Good morning. I want to thank Mayor Evans and Chief Smith for inviting me here today. I'm here representing County Executive Adam Bello. I am the Public Safety Director for the County of Monroe. Unfortunately, the County Executive had a conflict today. Over the last several months, our community has been presented with new and challenging threats to public safety. The increase in car thefts and carjackings, smash and grabs, illegal gun violence, just to name a few. One of the most concerning aspects of this rise in crime is that it's most often being committed by teens and juveniles, young people who have their entire lives ahead of them. This was the direct result of changes made in the state's criminal justice system, changes that were made without resources, tools, or follow-through needed to provide accountability to offenders and assistance to those families in need. Recognizing this concerning trend, County Executive Bello challenged my team in Monroe County Public Safety and our probation department to develop a plan to be part of the solution. It was out of this meeting that we developed the Juvenile Enhanced Diversion Stabilization Program, or as we refer to it as JEDS. We identified gaps in the state's criminal justice system where probation could step in to help bring greater accountability to offenders and separate them from their peers when they commit a crime. So far, early returns on the program are positive. Over the last 6 weeks, we've had 59 youth enter into the program, and just 3 have reoffended. This program is designed to remove offenders from the criminal environment by connecting them with programs and services to get them on the right path. Although still in its infancy stages, it's very encouraging when we hear those statistics. It's also giving our law enforcement officers and our juvenile prosecutors some additional tools and resources when apprehending and prosecuting teen offenders. The state criminal justice reforms were designed to protect a segment of the juvenile and youth offenders from having to go to jail, but what it didn't do is give us an alternative to hold dangerous teens accountable. JEDS does this in a variety of ways. It provides intensive supervision to juveniles entering into the state legal system for a much wider range of offenses. It is our probation team working with local law enforcement to review and assess juvenile and teen arrests and issuing expedited appearance tickets so offenders are in front of a judge within 24 hours. One thing the county executive has said many times, modern public safety challenges require modern and innovative solutions. Our JEDS program is a unique program and makes Monroe County probation among the first in the state to be utilized in this manner. And I would just like to add that in most instances when we're dealing with these young offenders and their families are appreciative of the effort to get these children, youngsters, back on the right path. We're grateful for our partners in law enforcement, including the Rochester Police Department, and hope that we continue to see positive outcomes for our community and for the families involved through our JEDS program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Tantillo. The JEDS program is an example of what I call the whole of community approach. When you have a flood and FEMA comes in, you bring in and you leverage everybody. You leverage every level of government. You leverage every area, and that is what we're doing as it relates to both violence as well as it relates to car thefts. You're leveraging everyone, and I think the numbers that you heard as it relates to JEDS, which has only been operating for about 6 weeks, the numbers are very, very promising, and it allows our young people to be able to engage in positive activities so that way they can turn their lives around before they end up in the criminal justice system and not be able to get out of it. So I want to thank the county executive, the probation team, Director Tantillo, and all that they are doing as it relates to the JEDS program. 59 folks in that program and only 3 folks that have reoffended over the 6 weeks period is a great number, and we want that to continue to happen, to continue to bear fruit and show results. I want to call up Police Chief David Smith to also give some high-level numbers and also talk about some of the other partnerships that we have as it relates to driving down violent crime and give an update on the last quarter. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. First, before I get into numbers, let me reiterate, none of what we have accomplished could be done without the hardworking men and women in the Rochester Police Department. We still continue to fill gaps in our staffing with overtime, much of which is not voluntary. So, you may go to work every day and know that you're out at 4 o'clock or whatever the end of your shift is, and you can make plans. A lot of these officers get to the end of their shift and they're told, nope, you don't go home, you're staying. So please bear that in mind. And, a lot of times people ask me, what can I do? I'll tell you, if you see an officer out, give him a wave, stop him, say thank you. So the mayor went over the shooting stats. I'm not going to reiterate those. I will talk about some of our firearms enforcement. So year to date, we've removed over 400 illegal firearms from the streets of Rochester. Thus far, we have charged 281 people with criminal possession of illegal weapons. Regarding stolen vehicles, so far, just in the city, we have arrested 137 adults. 27 juveniles were arrested in stolen vehicles and sent to city court. 87 juveniles were arrested and sent to family court, for a total of 251 arrests. And I have to mention that the sheriff is not here today, but the sheriff's office coordinated over the weekend, and I'm sure there'll be more coming on this, but there was a countywide joint stolen vehicle detail over the weekend arranged by the sheriffs. We participated in as well. So did the New York State Police, the Fairport Police, the Webster Police, the Gates Police Department, the East Rochester Police Department, Irondequoit Police Department, and Monroe County Probation. This detail was run over the weekend. I'm not going to give specific hours or strategies, but that was 32 officers from various jurisdictions in the County of Monroe that worked on that detail over the weekend. There's going to be more forthcoming, and again, that was put together by the Sheriff's Office, which we participated in. Regarding our special initiatives, we have stood up some of our non-fatal shooting teams. We've talked about that before, and that is the concept where we send investigators in cooperation with an assistant district attorney. We investigate non-fatal shootings in the same manner as we do homicides, so we have some of those teams up and running. The violence prevention section is up and running that we've talked about before. Significant arrests coming out of it, and there were already releases on these, so I'm just going to quick hit highlights for time's sake. But last week, I'm sure you saw the release, we arrested Javaris Corbett on Thursday. This person was wanted for assaulting an officer in June. On Thursday, was arrested with 2 handguns in his vehicle after a surveillance detail. Quan Colbert was arrested on Wednesday last week. He was wanted for criminal possession of a weapon in a shots fired incident on 2nd Street. He was also apprehended by the Violence Prevention Unit. The other component of our Violence Prevention Unit continues to work on house parties as we become aware of them, trying to stop them before they get going, because we know oftentimes they do lead to violence. And starting next weekend, we'll be partnering with city security, enforcing the closing hours at all city parks. Because as we know, we've had some gatherings in city parks after hours that have led to incidents. For community engagement, we have assigned the new captain to the unit, continuing the homeless outreach program in cooperation with City Hall, the Harvard Bloomberg folks. And we did just receive we will be receiving, for those who pay attention to City Council, committee, we talked about a grant that we were given. It's going to allow us to buy a gaming truck and a gaming trailer and a truck to tow it that we'll be able to take around to various locations, basically to set up and have city youth play video games for our part in, again, prevention and outreach. Our public safety partnership program, which is, I've spoken about it again before, it's our partnership with the Department of Justice, is ongoing. There was a team in a few weeks ago. They evaluated how we respond to non-fatal shootings, which was part of it. We also had a team in evaluating our community outreach program for us. So I'm awaiting the reports on those, the summaries from the Department of Justice. And just to reiterate, because people ask me all the time, what can I do? Say thanks to the men and women out there that are trying to keep everything safe. Mayor?
Thank you, Chief. Again, as you can see, prevention, intervention, and suppression, the police department plays a role in all 3. Because as one of my favorite mayors says, by the time someone's in a body bag, that's too late. We have to prevent violence before it happens. We have to intervene when we see violent situations getting ready to happen, and we have to make sure that we suppress violent situations when we see them. The one point regarding large gatherings is something that we are definitely going to be cracking down on. If you look at the last week's shootings, that spate of shootings that we had in that one day, almost all of those shootings were related to large gatherings that were taking place in spots that they weren't supposed to after hours. And we can't have that. Because what happens is tempers start flaring and people start shooting. And that's what happened in those situations. MLK Park closes at a certain hour. You're not supposed to be there. City lots, you're not supposed to be on a city lot after certain hours. So we are going to redouble our efforts to make sure that folks are not gathering in places where they're not supposed to be gathering. Because that has led to violent incidences that we have seen. And we can prevent that, and we're going to work hard to make sure that we continue to prevent that. As I said, I will be renewing the gun violence state of emergency again this week. And why am I renewing it? So if anybody has a question why I'm renewing it, I'll go back to the numbers that I gave you before, and I'll close with those numbers again, because that's why I have this gun violence state of emergency, to drive down those numbers. I want Linda Kingsley, our corporation counsel, to talk a little bit about what other tools we have in our toolbox as it relates to this gun violence emergency. I have been asked, when are you going to end the gun violence emergency? I'm going to end it when I see even a lower number of shootings. So that means that it's going to be around, I believe, for a while, but I reevaluate it every 30 days, and I look at it every single 5 days to give thoughts about how long we want to be able to keep this. But the intention and focus needs to continue to be on guns and violence. It's how we were able to bring these numbers down, but we have to keep them down. And if we take our eye off the ball, they'll go back up, and I want to keep them down. Corporation counsel.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I was asked to give updates on the 2 pieces of litigation that we've announced in recent months. As the mayor has spoken about and the chief's spoken about, the 2 big issues we've been facing are gun issues and the stolen cars that then cause other crimes. As you know, we brought the lawsuit against Kia and Hyundai. The consumer class action was rather rapidly settled by them. That is a totally separate piece of litigation. I know people saw that and thought that we managed to get our lawsuit settled in a matter of 10 days. Would have been wonderful, but that's not the case. But consumers can separately reach out in that class action and see if they can seek some recovery. Many, many more cities have joined the litigation. As you know, it's being handled as a multi-district litigation in the state of California. An amended, consolidated complaint is about to be filed with all of the parties in it. After that, Kia and Hyundai will have the opportunity to answer, and discovery will begin. This is no different than other civil litigation. Unless they suddenly make an offer, this will go on for an extended period of time. But hopefully the end result will be some compensation for the exorbitant expenses that Rochester and other municipalities have had to face. Kia and Hyundai quickly moved to settle the consumers, as I said. Obviously, this one is going to be very expensive for them, and they are not at this point giving any indication that they're looking to quickly settle it. One of the things we're seeking to recover is all of our overtime police costs that we have put into this, which obviously are exorbitant. As far as the gun litigation, again, we have brought suit, Buffalo has brought suit, a number of municipalities have brought suit. The court has issued a stay in those cases pending the outcome of a lawsuit that is challenging the entire legality of the New York State gun law. That case is in the Second Circuit, which is the Court of Appeals, the last stop before the U.S. Supreme Court. The courts have placed a stay on our litigation pending the outcome of that. So right now we're in a wait-and-see process. Once that gets going, again, once that's decided, then we'll move forward with our litigation. As far as other general public safety, as the mayor has said, we continue to renew the gun violence state of emergency. Just as a reminder of what that does, the executive law, New York State executive law, gives mayors the ability to declare a state of emergency. Traditionally, these were used for things like earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes and snowstorms, but are now being used for this type of situation. It allows the closure of places of gathering and public assembly. It allows the closure of streets to pedestrians and/or vehicles. It allows curfews. It allows limitations on group gatherings in public places. It allows us to do things like turn two-way streets into one-way streets if we suddenly need to. It allows us to discontinue temporarily other local laws and ordinances as we need to for the emergency, and to take a whole lot of other steps we might need to take to bring things under control. The reason we renew it, among others, is the very existence of the state of emergency gives a lot of clubs and establishments pause when they question whether they should go out on a limb and do something, because they know we can move at the speed of light, as opposed to having to, on a Saturday night at 2 a.m., I call the mayor, I ask him to declare a state of emergency, I get him to sign it, then we get to the chief. We don't want to have those restrictions, and the fact that we can act quickly is known, very well known in the club community. We continue to use it to monitor a number of problem establishments, both legal bars that are not controlling their clientele and illegal house parties. We can close a house for everything but the residential use. That would require an eviction. But we have put closure orders on people's homes saying you may only occupy this facility for residential use. You may not occupy it for social use. After we do a closure order, and we have continued to do many of them, after we do that, we will then get a cooperative owner in here and work with them. And again, this is a carrot and a stick. We have used this to get a lot of people in line. Those that continue to thumb their nose at the city will then follow up the closure order with either a revocation of their entertainment license, a revocation of their business permit, or an order in state Supreme Court, which we have done on a number of occasions to get a permanent closure. We did that with Flatliners. That was a tattoo establishment, which then turned itself into an after-hours party house, despite the fact that it had no liquor license, no entertainment license, or any other authority to run those operations. One of the things we have been doing in recent weeks and intend to continue to use is every weekend on Thursday, we give the chief an order signed by the mayor, allowing him to take immediate action on a street if we get word through the grapevine, through the resources we have, that there's about to be an illegal party, an illegal gathering, some indication of trouble on a street, and we can suddenly close that street to everything but people who live on the street. So no vehicular traffic except residents. That, again, is a tool that we would not have without the gun violence emergency, and we hopefully won't need to use it too often, but we're going to have it there as a tool.
Thank you. And I'll just say to the many residents who reach out, continue to reach out through the Reported app, through the mayor's office, because residents are sick of it. They want to be able to live in their neighborhoods without people thinking that they can come in and run their neighborhoods. These are residents, people live here, and they're not going to tolerate people having illegal house parties until 2, 3, 4 in the morning when you got grandmothers who are trying to sleep, and they want to be able to enjoy their grandkids and enjoy their lives. I'm a big party guy. I love throwing parties, but I do it within the consistency of the law. And if you're going to have these things and do them without the consistency of the law, and you're going to have individuals get shot, then after the people get shot, no one saw anything. I have a serious problem with that. And not I have a serious problem with that, the community has a serious problem with that. This gun violence emergency is an outgrowth of the calls that I got from residents that live in these neighborhoods that don't want to be feeling like they are living under siege, or they are living as live-in hostages in houses that they pay rent for or that they pay mortgage for. So we will continue to use the gun violence emergency to make sure that we stop that nonsense that's happening, because we know, number one, it gets results because the proof is in the numbers that I referenced earlier, but more importantly, it's important because residents deserve it. Rochesterians deserve it. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to make sure that I continue to fight on behalf of the residents of Rochester that they can live free of nuisance. And the gun violence emergency allows us to do that. Now let's shift to some more happier topics. I want to call up Victor Saunders. One of the things that we've been working on is a positive ad campaign to get people to start thinking about the importance of making good choices. I am a young person that has come out of that. I was involved in the Not Me Not Now program. I was involved in the anti-violence initiative, Rochester Challenge Against Violence, almost 25 years ago. And I said to Victor, we need to make sure that as part of this, that we're competing with so much nonsense on social media. I call it social nonsense. We're competing with so much of that. And one of the tasks I gave Victor was, how can we combat that? Victor's on our communications team. How can we combat this nonsense that we're seeing on our social media channels and on some of our media that you see when you watch some of these programs that come on late at night? I won't name any of the shows, but they're not positive shows. You lose some brain cells after watching them. So with that, Mr. Saunders, you want to come and talk about the Choose Wisdom campaign?
Good morning. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, my team and I in the Office of Violence Prevention are excited to launch our new marketing campaign, Choose Wisdom. We hear powerful stories every day from those who have grappled with violence, and we want to share those perspectives with other people experiencing the same thing across the city. You know, many people think they're alone in the experiences that they're having within the city, but we want them to know that there are people who understand where they are, where they're coming from, and there are answers for some of those questions. We want them to know that help is available. This campaign will help people choose wisdom so they can spread their own wisdom to prevent further violence in our neighborhoods. And not only choose wisdom, for those of us in our mentorship capacity, have to share the wisdom we have with the young people in need as well. But just as important is the ability to access community resources more quickly and efficiently, direct from your cell phone. The words choose wisdom are popping up alongside powerful imagery across Rochester. And with that, it gives the opportunity for young people, as well as their parents, the opportunity to be able to access different community alternatives and resources right from their cell phones. Those messages direct people to our continually updated website, rockovp.com, which captures and shares the voices of Rochesterians who have experienced violence on some level to raise awareness of resources that are available through OVP. You will see these lists upgraded on a daily basis, adding more resources and alternatives to be made available to community. The current centerpiece of the website is a 3-minute short film created by Shabaka Mu Asur, who is well known for his documentary Young Black Male, and encourages them to get involved to help others. Shabaka will continue working with my team and me to capture and share additional voices, stories, and resources. Community leader Aman Ta is also providing consultation on the campaign. As the mayor stated, we had to find our messaging, our positive messaging and raising of consciousness for individuals within the community that are bombarded by negative messaging. Shabaka and Aman are here with us today, and I'm very grateful for the support they are providing our office and our community to get these powerful messages out into the open. I want to thank you both very much for your support and helping people of Rochester choose wisdom.
Thank you. And I want to thank Shabaka and Aman again. They understand, and we're going to play this video in 1 second, but they understand the power of thought, the power of what you put into young people. Images have power, words have power, and if you're at home and all you're watching is people stealing cars or other negative things on TV or on YouTube or on TikTok or on social media, you will internalize that. So how can we counterbalance what they are seeing? And I think this video project, this marketing campaign that you see, I hope that this will be as powerful as This Is Your Brain on Drugs. I saw that almost 30 years ago, and that still stuck with me. And I hope that this will stick with many young people and adults in the community to choose wisdom over violence. So if we can hit that video and play it, that'd be great.
And my babies can't play outside. I don't let them ride. If my nieces and nephews, and my children are grown now, but if my nieces and nephews come, they have to stay in my yard.
You could be at the wrong place at the wrong time, hang around the wrong people.
I used to be a teacher's assistant at 7th school, and I lost one of my students. Like, it was senseless violence because I don't think it had anything to do with him.
I was shot 2010,
shot 2021. I shot 2022.
It's very sad, man, to see someone you really, really care about and love, you know, disappear like the next second or next day.
It is our business because we are a community. So anything that happens in this community, it's all of our business.
In '05, I was a victim of, I got shot in the stomach. In 2011, I was actually in a club and ended up getting cut.
I never been close to death a couple times, I'd say. But I'm still here, as y'all can see, healthy breathing. That's a blessing.
A lot of people really don't know themselves. And this is a direct result of the black-on-black violence. You see what I'm saying? Because if I knew you was my brother, I wouldn't try to cause you harm.
I just recently graduated from the Advanced Peace Program. That was a great experience. Like, a lot of more people need to be involved in that. Need to get the opportunity, the chances, and the resources that I received.
What the Elders Group is, it's a mentoring group for men and women, for young folks who struggle with making better choices in their lifetime.
I feel like it should be more of a guns down, gloves up thing when it comes to like, if it ever gets to that scenario.
I just feel like less violence and more understanding towards people's hearts and minds.
Spread more love. That word love need to be shared in a household more often than what it is now. You hear more love on the streets than you hear their mother telling their kids or whatever they love them at in the household.
I used to be part of Pathways of Peace. You know, going in neighborhoods, you know, where a lot of violence is happening and creating relationships and rapport with the individuals there.
I want all the kids to know, man, follow your dream. And if your dream turns into something else, push forward. Try to learn something every day. We don't stop learning until we return to the essence. Remember that.
Choose wisdom to me. It means pull from your experiences and using them for your advantage.
So again, I want to thank Victor and his team for working on this Choose Wisdom campaign. Shabaka, thank you. Talented filmmaker. And I think that this is starting to plant the seeds of undermining the negative vibes that we have in our community. That's something I used to always say, that how do we undermine the negative vibes that we often get in our community? And how we undermine negative vibes are pushing out these things, and by having a whole of community approach as we look to attack these what I call sicknesses that we have in our community. Sickness of gun violence, and now this unprecedented number of individuals that are stealing cars. These are twin challenges that call on all of us as a community to make sure that we work collaboratively to help stop the violence that we have seen, that we still want to make sure we get a handle on. Because as I said, I'm gratified but not satisfied, and we've made great progress, but we still have a long way to go to ensure that everyone feels safe in our community. And the feeling of safety is just as important as the physical safety itself. So with that, I have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then we will wrap up. And I would urge everyone to please continue to push out rockovp.com, rockovp.com. Please push that back. Sir, what station are you from?
Whale, 104.3, Rainbow Rock Show.
What is it?
104.3, Whale, Rainbow
Okay,
Rock.
go ahead.
I'm Chris Friendly. Last night, we had abandoned doing our show on South Avenue because there was a double stabbing. My office is right there across the street. I love our city. I appreciate all that you're doing. This is a thankless task.
It is. Now, what's your question?
The question is,
yeah.
when I went there today to see the blood that's still on the sidewalks, and I remember 7 days ago on June 27th, there was a mental health arrest. The gentleman was going to try to kill himself. And there was 7 police cars, 4 fire trucks. It was the same person that was involved in this double stabbing yesterday. So the question is, what are you getting in support from the mental health community when somebody's MHA'd?
Yeah, great question.
What does that mean?
Great question. So the question was about a double stabbing that happened on South Avenue, And if anyone heard this in the news, these were two individuals that were having an argument with each other, and they stabbed each other. And the question was, how is our mental health system playing a role in this when you have individuals that are involved with mental health issues and there's a revolving door? I think that it is one of the top issues that we have in our country right now. We have far too many individuals who go into a mental health crisis and they are held for 24 hours or less. There have been cases where people have gone for mental health help and have been held for 3 hours and then released back out, and then something bad happens to them. We have to reform. Our mental health system is something that we need help with from a national level, but also from a state level. There are not enough psychiatric beds for people to be able to be held, and there are not enough individuals getting the mental health support that they need, and you're seeing this happen and play out in many different ways. It plays out sometimes in violence, which is the stabbing, but oftentimes it plays out in ways in which individuals are being left on the streets and not getting the support that they need. So what we need is for expanded mental health beds. We need hospitals and also other industries to have more mental health beds, and we need people to be held longer than 3 or 4 hours. Because the end result is exactly what you just referenced, an individual stabbing or getting stabbed because maybe they didn't get that mental health support that they need. And that's something that the city definitely doesn't do. We don't control mental health services. It's something that the county executive has been beating this drum for a long time. At the state and federal level, we need more dollars for mental health beds, but we need more mental health beds for people to be able to get the support that they need, so that way it does not become this revolving door where they're constantly coming out. Berkeley.
Question for Vic, actually. When a young person is caught in a stolen car or stealing a car, and they go through the city court, I think your office meets with them and talks to them. That's the plan.
Right.
I'm wondering if you have an opportunity to talk to some of these teenagers who have done it.
Well, my street outreach team, Pathways to Peace, as well as other resources within our office, has an opportunity and have had an opportunity to talk to these young people. Within the last month and a half, my former director of Pathways to Peace and his team were able to do an event in collaboration with Center for Youth and other community members in order to address some of these individuals that had previously gone through the family court system as related to stolen cars. And we are addressing those issues. We are continuing to partner not only with the county, family court, and otherwise to try and offer case management services specific to families and young people that are coming through the system, understanding that some of the resources that are being made available to them might not have been something that they found out about as quickly as they could have, which with Rocco VP will allow parents as well as young people to be able to access those services a lot quicker.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you ask these teenagers why they're doing this, and what do they say?
What I've been getting back from individuals that have sat down and spent time with some of these teenagers is boredom. I've had some kids just say, listen, it's something to do. It varies. But by the same token, being able to have the information necessary to be able to find something else to do with yourself or making the choice to do those different things is going to be what changes the behavior. So, whatever your reasoning is for being in a stolen vehicle, we do have alternatives and resources within the community if you choose to use them.
Just for the mayor, you talked a lot about closures of parks and making sure people aren't having after-hour parties that get out of control. But we all know 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old is going to go out at night. They're going to do stuff, and what should they be doing? I mean, what positive options do they have in the community if they're being told, you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't go there? What do you expect to happen?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I don't think anybody's saying you can't go there, you can't go anywhere. We're talking about after-hours locations. And remember, well, at night, there's plenty of places they can go at night, but you can't be in a public park after certain hours. People can party until the cows come home if they do it in the proper place. I went out when I was a kid. and we need to make sure that we continue to create opportunities for them, right? But if kids are having a good time, that's okay. What we are saying is that people should not have illegal gatherings in illegal parks. We don't have a curfew. We don't have restrictions on where anybody can go. And we won't put those restrictions on people as long as we are able to keep things under control. But we have to be clear that at 4 o'clock in the morning or at 2:45 in the morning, someone should not be at MLK Park. That's not having a good time. So I want to be clear about that, because something you said was extremely important, but also could be very dangerous, because it could give the impression that we're trying to stop people from having fun. I want to be clear, Gino. We're talking about 2:45 in the morning. We're talking about 2:30 in the morning. We're talking about in the middle of a park. That's when some of these shootings happen. Most of the 4th of July shootings didn't even happen on the 4th of July. They ended up happening on July 5th, which was 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, in places where people weren't supposed to be gathered. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about parks. Let's be clear on that. We're not talking about somebody going out at 17 and being at Charlotte Beach at 9:30. We're not talking about that. So let's be very, very clear on that. Because I think that if it's misconstrued, it definitely can be picked up, oh, they're trying to shut down all parties. No, we're not trying to do that. We want people to party till the cows come home, because they're having a good time, they're not in trouble. But we're talking about when you have gatherings after hours, after many people have been drinking, in public spaces where they're not supposed to be, where crowds gather and start having beefs. That's what we're talking about.
What time does MLK Park close now?
MLK Park closes at, what is it? 10 o'clock. Okay, we had people there at 12:30. 12:30, way after the park was closed. Next question? Yes.
We've seen kids have a negative influence perhaps from social media challenges on TikTok. How do you think that this youth wisdom campaign is potentially training?
I hope that they will see many of the young people that were interviewed there and that they can relate to them. One of the things I learned, although I think that I'm still young, is that young people are very, very powerful influencers. They listen to what their friends tell them. And and what I've heard from some of the people who have stolen cars, or people who have talking to folks that have stolen cars, is that it was a peer that got them involved in that. Some of them are young ladies, and the guys want to be cool. Hey, I got this car, come. So how do you undermine that with positive peer pressure? It's very important. Peer teachers, peer educators, they are some of the most powerful people we have in our community, because they are able to connect with connect with other young people because they are around the same age. And I think that is extremely, extremely powerful. So I hope them hearing the voices of some of the young folks that are talking here, that they will be able to relate to that person. Because if I go back to my 16-year-old self, I see some of my friends that when I was 15 or 16 years old in that video. And I know that the influence I had on them and the influence that they had on me. So I hope that it has that ability. The other thing I like about the Choose Wisdom campaign is that it also has adults talking about how it affected them and their family. Once you hear about how a stolen car or something affects you, I hope that people would think twice. If somebody misses a dialysis appointment, that has a major effect on their life, on their health and their overall family. Or if they run a stop sign and crash into an innocent victim who's just trying to get home to be able to put dinner on the table, that makes people think differently. So I hope that this campaign will take off and get people to choose wisdom. But more importantly, I want you to also notice that this campaign does not start with a deficit approach. If you look at the imaging here, a lion is wise. A lion is the most powerful beast in all of the kingdom. It is the king of the beast. So I hope that when people look at the pictures or look at the video, that it allows them to know that they are lions, not chickens. And I want citizens of Rochester, particularly our young people, to know that they're lions and eagles, not chickens. They shouldn't be content with the food of chickens. We want them to be lions, and we want them to choose wisdom, and I hope that will affect them. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.